This month's Tank of the Month is actually one of my favourite medium tanks in the game, and we're going to have a look at exactly what this vehicle is. It is the Tier 8 medium from the German line, the Kampfpanzer 07RH, which is got some pretty interesting statistics when it comes to how this tank will actually play in your games, and hopefully it will give you an indication as to whether or not it is actually worth the £8.39 that you'll have to pay, or I believe $9.99 if you're in the US, and of course respectively wherever you are it will be a value dependent on your currency exchange between all of the various currencies in the world, but you guys know that. Anyway, it is relatively cheap to be able to pick this one up, and with the addition of 850 gold and 10 1.5 times silver boosters with 3 premium days, this is probably one of the most value kind of vehicles that I really did enjoy playing, because the Kampfpanzer, for the amount of gold that you would have to buy this for, you wouldn't even get 3,000 gold for the price of this tank, alongside 850 gold and extra bits and bobs that you can get along the way. So value for money wise, it's actually one of the better deals within the game, which is why you should always keep an eye on the Tank of the Month within the game. I'm sure some of you may have seen this, some of you may have not, but I wanted to give you an indication that sometimes these Tank of the Months are actually pretty good, and they come out with some very nice ones indeed if you don't follow along with some of the update news videos that we do, where we showcase off what these Tank of the Months are and give my opinion on them. But either way, I thought today we're actually going to take it to the game and show exactly what this tank can do. So without further ado, what is this tank all about? Well, it is the German medium that has HESH rounds, or at least HEP rounds, I believe, or at least a German equivalent of HESH, and these are rounds that have super high penetration for the caliber of gun that this tank gets, which means when you're using these rounds you can be very, very competitive, because a lot of the vehicles at tier 8, especially the paper ones, are able to be penned with 90mm of penetration, mainly if you find either the rear or the front of paper vehicles. So with that being said, even some of the side of a lot of the vehicles at this tier can be penned with 90mm of penetration. To kind of give you an overview, 90mm of penetration is the same HE pen that you would see on vehicles like tier 10 tank destroyers, like for example the E4. So you can kind of get to grips with how much penetration that actually is. Even things like what you'll see with things like the Guerrilla 15 have considerably less HE pen with their HE rounds. So as a tier 8 medium that has that ability, it is really nice. And unlike a lot of kind of vehicles that are the similar sort of thing where they have decent penetration, this one actually gets quite a big buff to the amount of damage you can deal in every single one of your shots. So instead of the 200 average damage that you deal with this main armament of this tank, you're actually dealing 320. So that is essentially a 160% boost to your damage per minute when you are using those HE rounds. And because this tank's DPM is actually fairly good in the first place, it makes it very, very nice. You can see the base damage per minute is 3,164 with a tier 8 medium. That is on the level of some of the tier 10 mediums in the game. And so yeah, you are consistently going to be very, very easy to take vehicles out, as long as you're kind of playing it in that sort of support role where you can use lower alpha damage and kind of rely on dealing that damage over time. So, the KPZ-07RH, what's its armor model like? Well, yeah, it sucks. It's absolutely terrible. You get penned by absolutely everyone, and you should probably run for your life if you see any of the high caliber vehicles, as they are going straight through any area of this vehicle. So it is paper. It is not a tank that is very easy to kind of play in terms of a brand new player. So as a brand new player, you'll certainly enjoy this tank. It's actually a really enjoyable tank. It's fast. It has a good gun. It has good view range. It has very, very nice kind of heat pen as well with 255. But remember that this is not particularly the easiest to play because it has absolutely no armor. But at the end of the day, armor is usually one of the lowest priority things when I look at a tank as to whether or not it's good. So with that being said, this tank, when it is played well, can be one of the most dangerous in the game, because not only can you have that 3100 DPM with a 3.79 second reload that allows you to track people really quickly. So if you get the tracks of someone, you can then retrack them with the next shot just a couple seconds later, and then just lock them down and keep them in place for the rest of the game until they end up back in the garage. So that is one of my favorite things about having lower alpha damage, which this tank definitely has. Alongside that, then it gets 9 degrees of gun depression, which is very good as well. And with 9 degrees, it makes it really flexible. And then you combine it with the flexibility of the mobility, it means you can go really fast. And the power to weight ratio of this vehicle is perfect, 23, making it very able to actually get up to top speed, maintain it, and move around the battlefield. Then you pair that with the view range, the speed, and it becomes a really good tank to kind of move around the map during the game and use view range to your advantage. So that's kind of how this tank primarily will play. In terms of the way that I've kind of set up the vehicle, is that we've gone with advanced optics, advanced loader, and gun stabilizer. Now, it might be weird, why are we using gun stabilizer on a tank that has no alpha damage? Well, it's because the accuracy of this vehicle is surprisingly not that good. It's a bit rubbish, to be honest with you, when you aren't using vertical stabilizer, which is really annoying because it has such a fast fire rate that having annoyingly bad accuracy can be a real problem. But of course, we don't have to worry about that because we have used vertical stabilizers. And because this vehicle doesn't really need the extra camo because it's fairly good at being able to remain undetected anyway, it isn't crucial, and it certainly isn't going to be able to be, you know, the 200 meters still concealment range anyway, so there's no point in boosting it to oblivion and making your opponents want to just cry themselves to sleep, because it's just not going to be the case with the camo on this tank. In terms of other equipment that maybe you could swap out, potentially could go with some speed boost equipment, since, you know, the extra speed can help in some situations, and maybe if you wanted to have a few little extra DPM advantages, you could go with improved ventilation. But for me, it's just not necessarily really needed, and I think the view range and the loader boost alongside almost the requirement to use the gun stabilizer is probably the biggest thing. Obviously you want enhanced target info. People always question me, why are you using enhanced target info on everything? Well, it is simply because of the outline target. I don't care about the show penetration chance. It literally doesn't matter for me because I've just had the experience of knowing where to pen vehicles, and so we don't need that. But having the outline target means that if you are looking at someone in a bush, you can't see them. They are where they are when you see them in the bush, but you can't actually see through that bush. And of course that means that you're going to have to try and find weak points through a bush which you can't see the opponent behind. So of course you're going to miss a lot of shots, and it also means that it's very much difficult to actually find people over ridgelines. So this is one of those things which it doesn't give you any like statistical benefit, but the actual benefit is huge. You know so much from seeing the outline target, and it will save you more than it will kind of hinder you if you don't take it. So that's why I always use enhanced target info to clear that up, and why I would never really swap it off unless I was playing maybe artillery. But you know, that's artillery, and often there's not that many equipment things that are useful for artillery anyway. So either way, that's kind of what we gone for. And the build in terms of appearance, of course we put full camo on. Why? Well, that's because we want the 3% extra camouflage bonus. And then commander wise, we have gone with a stealth build alongside DPM to give us of course all of the camo perks possible, and then the view range, and then the DPM and the steady aim for the increased accuracy. So that's kind of how we've gone, and that'll make it very good. And that's kind of where we went with the vehicle. of course, we've talked a lot about this tank. Let's jump into the gameplay and see what it actually is like. And that gameplay is, of course, on steps. This is a tier 10 game, so it's the worst possible matchup. I seem to be having a lot of worst possible matchups recently on World of Tanks. I don't know what it is. Maybe I've got the non-CC RNG, as a lot of people would love to say. So it means that we are going to be playing up against some of the best vehicles in the game, or at least the kind of best vehicles that we can come up against. And there's one of them, the Machine, a tank you definitely don't want to get YOLO'd by when you're in a tank that only has 1300 hit points, and the Machine can deal just about nearly the entire hit point pool of this tank. And then, of course, we've got the YOLO Wagon light tanks who are in the center of the map, and unfortunately for me, my aim is absolutely atrocious at this point. It's primarily down to the fact that the AP rounds of this tank are not the fastest rounds in the game. It means you do have some problems when you're trying to lead shots and stuff like that. So that's where the heat rounds can be even beneficial when it comes to that as well. Now, I pull back down the hill. We don't want to get clipped out by a Machine. That would be very, very bad. But I equally don't want to get caught out by a random tank destroyer that's sat at the back that for some reason we can't spot. So I pull all the way back and see if we can get a shot onto these guys, which we do, but we take a hit in return. Not ideal, but let's see if we can get one into the T28 prototype nonetheless, which of course goes into the turret with the lovely accuracy of this tank. Of course, now we've got the YOLO Wagon T100, my aim continuing to be bad. Yes, I do have bad aim sometimes, much to your guys' probably amusement. But either way, the T100 is just YOLOing around in the middle of the map. Don't know why, but he is. We've got our old friend that we definitely don't want to get hit by, the Waffle E100. The tank that can hit us twice within a couple of seconds and send us back to the garage far too quickly than I would like. So what do? Well, we try and mess with the Waffle E100, of course, why not? When you've got the vehicle that supposedly has no armor, but apparently 90mm of penetration can't go through the tiny plate that we've got with, of course, the Waffle E100 here. Which does suck, but now the AVRE, the other horrible vehicle to come up against in a paper tank, decides he's coming around, and then we continuously don't manage to pen the T100 LT, who for some reason bounces one of our rounds, and then my potato aim doesn't realise that yes, the tank goes up, the tank comes down, and now we get one successful shot into the T100. Can we get another one? No, of course we can't. I should have loaded heat for the increased shell velocity, because it really does not have the best. And then of course, to make matters worse, we're bouncing off of the T100 LT, which is just perfect. Yay. This is what we want in the game. Then we see the true colours of the Machine class player just coming YOLO wagging over to get a full clip off and sacrificing himself to me. No, I said sacrificing himself to... oh my god. Yeah. Moving swiftly onwards, you can see we've picked up 2k damage already, but this is really not that good. There are two horrible tanks that are still on a lot of hit points. And we've got a tank which is the AVRE. Yes, it's good, but at the same time, it is a AVRE which has a super long reload and can't really support me against some of these vehicles either way. So we put another shot into the 257 there, I want to say, or I believe it is anyway. And then of course the AVRE is making his way away. We have not the greatest of team support in this one, but hopefully we can win this game either way. We set the 257 on fire, which is perfect, and then we pick on the AVRE. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, better than when you find yourself a little AVRE rat player out in the open, and you're in a tank that definitely shouldn't take it out, but you do nonetheless. And then we get ourselves a little Vanguard, auto-aiming on the move. Ooh, almost crashed into the Centurion, which would have been really bad. We free aim the Vanguard to get rid of him. The AVRE starts turning toward us, so please get away. He's fired the numpty. Now we have a free shot into this guy where we fully aim that one because we don't want to auto aim him. And then we get one into the back of the AVRE. Can we finish him off before the game gets capped out? And we do. 4.3 thousand damage, but of course the 5 enemy tanks left on the enemy team decided that let's cap the game, meaning that we came third on experience in a tier 8 tank on the losing side in a tier 10 game. So a really nice result for the KPZ-07RH and kind of a showcase of what this tank can do. Even with some horrific aim and some questionable decision making from myself, we still managed to have a very, very good game and come away with a result where I was pretty happy other than my particular bad performance. But yeah, either way, that's more a showcase of what the tank can do than what we did in that game. And hopefully you guys will actually try and pick up this vehicle in the game. I think it needs a lot of love, and I think it is a really fantastic tank that I love to play in the game, that I think more people can enjoy and try out. And at the end of the day, it's actually surprisingly cheap, and unlike most of the things that I say on the channel regarding premium tanks, I actually think this one is worth the money. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like it if you did, and of course check out this video on screen, which showcases some more gameplay of various different tanks in the playlist. And I'll see you there. Goodbye.